Hey, everybody, welcome back. My guest today is Dr. Brian Nguyen, who's the co-owner of New Vision Optometry in Burbank, California. He owns and operates the practice there with his wife, Dr. Udy Choy, and been in practice for a number of years. So we're going to obviously talk about that. Anytime there's a family dynamic in the practice, we love to talk about it. Brian also serves in a couple of different aspects in his community as well. He's a Vision Source administrator for the San Fernando Valley, and he's also on the board of directors for Vosh California, which stands for the Volunteer Optometric Services to Humanity. Dr. Nguyen, welcome to the interview. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's exciting.
Yeah, you bet. Me too. For me as well. So, so I know we were talking a little bit before the show started about dynamics of working with your wife. You guys met in college, I
Yes.
think you said, and sparks flew, and then you decided to start a business together, which and you've been successful at it, which is not the case for a lot of people. Either it puts a strain on the business or marriage. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think there was a interesting synergy there that happened.
Yeah, so we both met in optometry school, New England College of Optometry in 2010. And we happened to live in the same building. So I actually courted her with all my delicious meals that I would cook because as a student coming from California, living in Boston, she did not take it so well, did not have a car, was not loving the 1 hour mile walk in the winter to get groceries. So that's how that relationship started. But after we graduated, I'm actually from Canada, so I moved back up to Canada for about a year and a half. I worked in a commercial practice up there. She came back to California, worked in private practice, and we were trying to figure out who was going to move where. And again, she couldn't deal with the Canadian cold winter, so here I am in Southern California. But we both kind of did our own thing for maybe about 1 to 3 years after we graduated, working in various settings, commercial, private practices. And then after we kind of gained enough knowledge and skill set in private practice, we kind of decided to venture off on our own. We had no plans actually on opening a practice together, but through our relationship, we found out that we liked very kind of interesting, or not interesting, but different things. So I really like patient care, patient management, taking care of patients, follow-ups, referrals, all that stuff. And she likes more of the back end stuff. So staff training, handling the vendors, getting all the programs and protocols in place. So it kind of worked well for us. And so when we're at the office, yes, we have our days where we're seeing patients, but when we're not seeing patients, we kind of do our own thing. And
Yeah.
so it's a great symbiotic relationship, I guess, we have going on.
Yeah. No, you bet. It's a great partnership to be able to do that. And it sounds like, because again, we get into not so much on this interview series, but I've talked to a lot of business owners over the years where it's just kind of a natural thing that either there's it puts a strain on one end or the other, right? It's either personal or professional, where things are, people are trying to step over each other, or each have your own independent. Of course, we all have our own independent ideas, but they tend to clash either in the office. How do you guys? One big thing that happens is, and I'm interested to know, because I think it'll be valuable for people listening who may be in a similar spot, is how do you guys over the years shut down your mind, your work mind, when you go home, and not bring everything work related to your house? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. It is tough because, once you get home around the dinner table, of course, you're going to be talking about what went on that day. We really try to not talk about it as much as possible. So in our electronic medical records, we have a tasking system where, we send tasks to our staff, but we also try to do that between us as well. So if it's not anything urgent that needs to be discussed right away, we'll task each other, and then we can just handle it the next day or during work hours, and try not to talk about it unless it's an urgent matter. But it
okay.
is pretty important to really try to separate, professional from your life at home, because it can get kind of messy and stressful. So it's just everyone just has to come up with kind of their own system, but it's a necessary thing to kind of figure out when you go into business ownership with your spouse.
Yeah, for sure. And that and even, even for a lot of years, I had my wife working kind of the front office and my practice, in my CPA firm, for a number of years when we had a physical location early on. And we had same sorts of things, right? It was a small office, and we had a similar system where we would essentially very similar, same type of thing. We would, have a repository for all of those, like a place to put all of those tasks, if you will, and or things we need to talk about. Might have a work meeting in the morning, like when we first get there. But really, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's taking that as an idea, and just finding the system that's going to work well for you personally. Because there's 100 ideas out there, but which one should you do? It's going to be the one that you stick to, right? And that doesn't that allows you to really um, uh, have a separate or like a distinct work, professional and personal life, because otherwise the two blend together. I mean, they're interconnected, but if they blend together too much, as I say, we get some potential issues that come up with that, or its own challenges, right?
Yeah, and
So
we've been in private practice for 5 years together now, and we're still coming up with ways to kind of like separate things. And I'll give you an example of that. Memorial Day
yeah,
weekend, this last weekend here, a couple days ago, obviously there's a lot of deals going on. So she just purchased very expensive, might I add, Bose headphones,
okay,
noise canceling headphones. And so she was having troubles like when she was in the office trying to get admin work done. Our desks are right next to each other, and it's very easy for me to just turn and just like tell her a problem or something that needs to be done, or when staff come in.
hmm,
So she has come up with her own solution where she got noise canceling headphones, and she when she's at work doing her admin, she's just gonna put them on, and then everyone's gonna know that when she has them on to not bother her. So
okay.
get creative. It's a learning curve. Just kind of figure out what works for you, and it never ends. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's great though, because I think a lot of times some people can get into a bit of a uh just a bit of a mindset that's like, okay, I addressed this, it should be working. And that's with anything, but especially, something like this, relationship where you're really never kind of getting away from each other. It's probably some days or weeks it feels like you're always together, which it's probably a great thing. But at the same time, it's like, okay, there needs to have some guardrails up with that as well, right? So but thinking that we've addressed it once and then that it should be working. But no, what I hear from you is that it takes some effort and constant refinement to continue to kind of tweak your systems, and what worked for you, a day ago or a year ago may not be the thing that works for you today, right?
Correct. Yes.
Very good. Tell us a little bit about your volunteer service. You said you'd been involved with Vosh California for since you were in college, and then you've served on the board of directors for the last few years. Tell me a little bit about what they do, the mission that they serve, and why you feel it's important to volunteer your time with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two passions that I really have in optometry. One is private practice optometry, furthering the profession. And then number two is the volunteer services. So before I even started optometry school, I actually did two mission trips with a company called One Sight. One was to El Salvador. It was for 10 days, and we saw 10,000 patients over 10 days. There were 40 volunteers, both doctors and just like technicians. And then I did another trip to Haiti for a week. And this was right before optometry school. I always had a feeling that I wanted to do optometry. I shadowed a bunch of different professions when I was trying to make that decision. And one thing that led me to optometry, and I know this sounds kind of selfish, but what I learned from the mission trips was instant gratification. So what I mean by that is like when we initially put on a pair of glasses for a patient and they haven't been able to see for so long, and you just get that happiness and that joy. It's just an experience that you can't forget. And so when I was shadowing other health professionals, when I was trying to figure out kind of which direction I wanted to go in, some of the other professionals, and I have a lot of friends in those professions, but it takes active treatment, medications, physio. It takes work to kind of get them back to where they need to be. Whereas in most cases in optometry, you give a child a pair of glasses for the first time or contact lenses so they can play sports, and it makes a world of a difference. So when I went to those mission trips, I was able to see firsthand that vision was definitely taken for granted. Some of the stories that I remember, like when we visited a village, there was a grandmother that taught all the grandkids, all the children in the village to read and write. And for the last, like, I think 3 or 4 years, she wasn't able to because she couldn't see her book up close anymore for two reasons. Number one, she had developing cataracts, but number two, she just didn't have access to over-the-counter readers. And so something as simple as $10 here, walking to CVS, and you can pick up over-the-counter readers. They don't have that. They don't have drugstores down there, let alone do they have, a couple dollars for over-the-counter readers. And being able to give them a plus 250 reader and her being able to read her Bible and the learning materials, definitely life-changing. Yeah, some of the things that are kind of cool nowadays, because when I started doing this about 10 years ago, we took down recycled glasses. And so that might be kind of your perception of it. We get donated glasses from the Lions Club. We send them to the prison. The prison has like a program where they clean the glasses and they neutralize, which means that they read the prescription, they package it up, and then we organize it. So 5, 10 years ago, that was the method. We would bring crates of recycled glasses. Getting them across the border was another story because that was always a headache, a nightmare. But now the cool thing is that these mission trips are moving to more sustainable programs. I think they did a study that said that, one year when a group came down and they dispensed all these recycled glasses, they did a study where they came back the next year to see like how many of those patients still had the same glasses or was even using them. And it was a pretty low percentage, about 20 to 30%. Either the glasses didn't work out well for them, or they were broken or just not good quality. Or they didn't like the fashion or the look of the glasses. So nowadays we're actually able to bring down frames that are donated from frame companies, and through certain foundations, like I work with one called the S4 Vision Foundation, we're actually able to customize lenses for them. So we write down the prescription, we take them back to the US. There's the foundation, S4 Vision Foundation, that does free lenses for them. And then we ship them back there, and they can have their own customized glasses that are personalized for their prescription. And so the usage rate and retention rate just skyrockets when you do stuff like that. And they're able to pick up their own frames as well.
Wow, that's very cool. So that's a big that is a big change. I don't think I did realize that that necessarily was happening. I totally had this picture in my head like you described it at first, right? That was a bunch of recycled glasses, and we're kind of just hoping that what you took kind of fit the bill for, or at least made it a little bit better. But now that you've got a full out custom solution, just almost as if they were being seen up here. It's the same, sounds like the same quality and attention is being given to those folks in those other countries.
Yeah, and depending which mission trip you go on, like some of these bigger companies, they're actually shipping down the equipment to cut and edge the lenses. So one of the ones that I did recently in San Diego. So not only is there need internationally, but also locally as well. Within your community, there's a lot of people who just don't have access. And so the one that I do in San Diego around Halloween time, it is done with kids. We just visit all the schools, see which kids need glasses, have broken glasses, and their parents have been able to take them. But then a company that we work with, they ship down, I think, about 3 or 4 of those big machines where they can actually cut the lenses right there and then. So the kids have their own customized glasses just in a couple of days. So a lot of these efforts now are moving to more sustainable programs where, it makes more of a lasting effect on these communities for sure. It's a fun time to be in.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's great. Well, and I really love the perspective you have on that vision in general, but even, you see it through these mission trips as well. This kind of, when you're referring to this instant transformation of, being able to essentially change somebody's life experience on the spot almost, right? Like, it's not like take 2 of these and call me 3 months from now, and let's see if you gotten better. I mean, it's in a lot of those cases instant, and it is like a huge. I mean, this is what a lot of us know who work in or with the vision, eye care professionals communities, is that a lot of times in you probably see it in your profession that um, uh, people either don't have the means, or in other times they simply almost neglect part of their eye care by not making it in as often as they should, or whatever the case may be, right? Just that connection you were making there about um, getting people to giving them the means, in the case with Vosh California, to get the treatment, and then the fact that it can um, drastically improve their experiences in life at multiple levels is a fascinating and I have to believe very rewarding aspect of the work you do.
Yeah, there was it kind of leads me to this thought that I had there. So I read an article a couple years ago, and there was a group of eye doctors that went to a village for the blind in a remote area in China, and they did testing on all of these so-called blind patients, and they found out that 75% of the blindness that was there was either preventable or treatable. So all these
Wow.
people who have been going on thinking that they were blind could have been cured. About 10 to 15% had uncorrected prescription. So they had a very high prescription. We're talking about -8, -10, but without the resources, you literally can't see the big E on the chart. So yes, you are considered legally blind at that point. And then about 50% of them just needed cataract surgery. So we haven't really kind of talked about this, but cataract surgery is something that is easily done in the United States. Once you have cataracts, you can do the procedure. It takes 5 minutes per eye. There's so many ophthalmologists that do it. But in these remote countries or these remote areas where there aren't ophthalmologists and there aren't people who do surgeries, you have to basically live with your cataracts. So there's no drops, no glasses that will fix cataracts. You just have to live with your lens inside your eye becoming yellow. And so one of the other great things that Vosh California does is once a month on the third Saturday of each month, we go down to Tecate, Mexico. So we take about 6 optometry students with us. We meet at the border from Los Angeles. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. We meet at the border, walk across the border, and then we take a taxi to the Tecate clinic. And at that clinic, we see about 40 to 50 patients on a Saturday for about 6 hours. So it's a really quick clinic. It's a awesome volunteer opportunity if anyone wants to go but don't have like weeks to give up. So the
Okay.
1 day trip is pretty fun. And right next door to us, we actually have a group of ophthalmologists, cataract surgeons, retired surgeons, or residents training. And so they can do cataract surgery for free right there and then. So if we find a patient with a cataract, we'll send them over there, and then they will do the surgery on one eye. They want to give them one good eye first, and then they can come back at a later date to do the second eye. So
Wow.
yeah, the surgery is, as I mentioned, it's really quick, but a lot of these countries don't have it. And so this study that they did in China, unfortunately, 50% of those patients just had to live their life with their cataracts and not being able to do anything about it.
Wow. That's very eye-opening, right? To think that that's happening out there, and like you said, very preventable or treatable, and they're just having to live like that. So yeah, when we talk about improving the life experience, and almost cataract surgery, not quite so instantaneous, but it's pretty quick. I mean, afterwards it's fast and it's a relatively quick recovery. So it still kind of fits the mold when you compare it to other like medical professions. We can still call it instant transformation, I think.
Yes.
It's pretty quick. So that's awesome. And are these the ophthalmologists that are down there doing the surgery? Are they from the US and through Bosch as well?
Correct. They're
Yeah.
they're not
Okay.
through Bosch. They have
Oh,
ophthalmologists
they
have
have
their
their own.
own program that
Yeah.
they're part
Yeah.
of. Actually, I
Okay.
forget what they're called, but yes, US ophthalmologists, either retired or they have extra time
Hmm.
just out of their schedule. or residents in training. So
That's
and it's
awesome.
cool because the students, the optometry students that we take with us, they're able to just peep over there and watch the surgery. So they really like that experience. The surgery done there is completely different than it is here, obviously, because we don't have a normal operating room. We don't have all the
Sure.
jazz, the equipment here. But it's kind of cool to see like how you do the surgeries in a different country because not every country is as spoiled, or not spoiled, but as privileged
Yeah.
as yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Well, yeah, they're just not as, not necessarily as privileged or fortunate to have the all the advances that we have either, which does spoil us. I'll agree with you on that. But it just ends up we take things more for granted, like you mentioned before, than it's easy to forget that there's other parts of the world that aren't at the same level of advancement as we enjoy. So that's great that you're shedding a light on that through here. So two things and wrapping up because I know you probably have some patients or something you got to go see. I think we're about at time, but one thing is this. So all the talk about the mission trips and the weekend Saturday trips to Mexico begs the question. Like plus you're running your own practice, so begs the question: how do you find time to do all of that?
It helps definitely having my partner be my OD wife. We actually have a 2.5-year-old and she's expecting our second and she's due in a month and a half.
Oh wow.
So yeah, our life is about to get even a little bit crazier. But I think when you find stuff that you're really passionate about, you just make time to do it. Time is something that we definitely can't get back. But if you really find something that is fulfilling to you and enjoyable to you, then you will make time. So everything that we discussed about today, running my practice, having a separate family life, doing all these volunteer services, it's stuff that I really enjoy. And so it makes me happy. And it's like I used to go on these like week-long mission trips, 10-day mission trips. That definitely is not the case now, but there are other things that you can do. So if you just feel like
Sure.
you don't have the time, there's other ways that you can volunteer your time. So on Vosh, I also help with like the website or membership, and that's stuff that I can do in the evenings, just like answering emails. So I don't always have to like set aside like a full week to be going on these international trips.
Okay. Yeah, very good. So yeah, so a lot of opportunity there then for folks if you have a little bit of time or a lot of time, right? Is what I'm hearing. So but the bigger thing I think is saying that there's an old saying, I forget who said it. It may be a little bit cliche by now, but it's that old saying that goes up and I'm gonna not say it verbatim either because I don't have it verbatim, but it's that old saying where you can talk or you can tell a lot about a person's character by two things: where they spend their money and where they spend their time, right? And so the fact that you spent so much of our time talking about the time you volunteer really shows a lot about the type of person you are. And like you said, when it becomes there's that level of passion in it, the time, and maybe you find this out or agree to it, the time really doesn't become as much of an issue, right? Because it's just part of your being. It's just part of what you do. Does that make sense?
Yes,
And
yeah,
kind of
I'd
agree
agree
with
with that.
him? Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, well, there's a lot of ways we're probably, a lot of us are probably spending a lot of time where we may rethink it. So no, that's great. So in closing, Brian, again, I thank you for all the time you've given us today. Maybe I always say this, maybe you've already hit on it. Maybe you just want to restate it here at the end. But if you have something else to give as well, you're more than free. I always ask at the end a piece of advice you give to others that are on their journey with independent optometry or on their way to living as an abundant OD. Another piece of advice or restate one that you've already given that you'd like to offer?
If you are thinking about private practice optometry, my advice is just do it. Just do it. Yeah, it's like I know it sounds simple, but there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of like questioning when you're trying to figure out if you want to go into private practice optometry, but it has been single-handedly one of the most rewarding things that we could do. Especially with like a family now, the flexibility, like I call the shots. I'm able to close down patient care when I want to. If I want to spend time with the family, if I want to take a 3 or 4 day weekend, my employees just my team members just stay and open up the practice. And so yeah, I mean, if you're contemplating, obviously, like, use your resource of mentors, your network of colleagues around you. But one of the biggest mistakes that I did, I would say, was just starting so late. Like, if I like really knew that this would have worked out well for me, I would have liked to open up my private practice like a little bit sooner. And by late, I mean, obviously not like super late, but yes. So just do it. You know, you'll have a network of people that support you. And my second piece of advice is, yeah, don't forget, you know, we're all optometrists. We all run businesses. We all lead a team of people. But at the end of the day, you know, we want to give the gift of sight. And so any opportunity that people get to volunteer some of their time, let it be, you know, once a year, once a month, once a week, just any opportunity. There's a lot of people in need. Doesn't have to be just international trips, a lot of local trips. Just look within your communities. For instance, oftentimes we'll see kids, like, I'm in my area, my demographics is, you know, more middle to upper class, but even then there's still a lot of students that are in the school system that break their glasses and aren't able to, their parents don't take them for an eye exam for like 6 months to 12 months. They're stuck with these broken glasses, or their prescription changes and they don't have the funds. So there's a lot of local need as well. So just kind of search out for those needs.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, what people may find is that once it's like a lot of other things when you turn on those receptors, right? Like once you start looking for it, you'd be surprised, maybe surprised what you find out about things in your own backyard, right? In your own
Yes.
community. So
Yes.
great advice, Brian. So thank you so much again for your time. It was an absolute pleasure again to know you a little bit better. And you take care. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You bet.